Making headlines this hour. Ministry of Foreign Affairs welcomes the United Nations Security Council for adopting a resolution demanding an end to Israeli settlements. State Utilities Company Fennica Corporation hands over employment letters to 100 disabled persons as part of the government's policy on ensuring equal opportunities for all citizens. And rescue operations is underway off the Sochi coast after Russian military plane en route to Syria with 92 people on board crashed after takeoff. Good evening and welcome to Nightly News on Television Maldives with me, Fatma Sara. The main part of the 71st session of the General Assembly concludes at the United Nations headquarters in New York. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Mohammed Asim, led the Maldives delegation to the 71st session. The minister attended the high-level segment of the session and delivered the address statement at the general debate on the 24th of September 2016. During the main part of the 71st session, the Maldives delegation delivered 33 statements and co-sponsored 42 resolutions on a range of issues, including advancement of women, sustainable development, counter-terrorism, situation in the Middle East and Palestine, reform of the Security Council, and oceans and law of the sea. The delegation was also actively engaged in negotiations on a range of issues across the globe, across the General Assembly's program of work. This included negotiations on rights of the child and women, climate change, small island developing states, disaster risk reduction, and the situation in Syria. As the chair of the Alliance of Small Island Developing State, the Maldives represented the group of 37 UN member states in the deliberations concerning sustainable development, climate change, disaster risk reduction, and oceans. The Maldives delegation to the 75th session included Attorney General Mohammed Anil, Foreign Secretary Dr. Ali Nasir Mohammed, and Permanent Representative of Maldives to the United Nations, Ahmed Sarir. The delegation comprised representatives from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Attorney General's Office, the Ministry of Environment, as well as Permanent Mission of Maldives to the United Nations in New York. Ministry of Foreign Affairs welcomes the United Nations Security Council for adopting a resolution demanding an end to the Israeli settlements. Foreign Ministry said that the resolution shows leadership in bringing Israeli occupation of Palestine to an end. The ministry further added that the resolution, the first adopted by the Council on Israel and Palestinians in nearly 8 years, was a historic step. The Palestinians want an independent state in the West Bank, Gaza and East Jerusalem, areas Israel captured in a 1967 war. Under the UN Charter, UN member states have to agree to accept and carry out the decisions of the Security Council. State Utilities Company Fennica Corporation hands over employment letters to 100 disabled persons as part of the government's policy on ensuring equal opportunities for all citizens. The employment documents were handed over by Fennica to the recipients at a ceremony held at Darubaruge. The government of President Abdulyamin Abdul Qayyum prioritizes providing equal opportunities to all citizens. Under this effort, government is working to provide equal educational, employment and economical opportunities to all citizens, including persons with disabilities. As part of this effort, educational and employment opportunities are being offered to the disabled through government organizations and state-owned companies. Fennica Corporation has also joined the initiative and provided employment to 100 disabled persons. Speaking at the event, Minister for Gender and Families Anisha Shahid Zaki said efforts will be initiated next year to provide and ensure a safe working environment for the disabled. She said that providing equal and unhindered opportunities in all fields for the disabled will assist in the development of the nation. She noted the importance of creating awareness amongst employers and fellow employees regarding persons with disabilities. Minister Zanisha further said that next year they will begin efforts to prevent discrimination towards disabled in the community and guarantee the rights of the disabled. She commended the initiative by Fenaka as a historic step towards providing equal opportunities for the disabled in the community. The 100 posts for the disabled will be provided through different branches of Fenaka established across the country. Speaking at the event, Managing Director of Fenaka Ahmed Sharif assured that they will treat their new employees with kindness and compassion. He added that much has been done to establish a friendly working environment for those disabled who are joining the corporation. Some of those who received the employment letters talked with PSM. They expressed gratitude and said that this gesture makes them feel accepted in the community. Fenaka has its units in 152 islands with over 2,500 staff. State Trading Organization STO says that efforts to salvage its cargo vessel which sank at a T-jetty area are underway with assistance of Maldives National Defence Force MNDF. According to the company, they did not incur huge losses due to the incident as they were able to offload most of the shipments which were on board the vessel. According to the company, all goods on board the vessel were insured as well. The cargo vessel was being loaded with shipments of staple food and other commodities when it began to sink last night. STO said they will be able to determine the losses after further investigation, which will be conducted by MNDF. STO further assured that this incident would not affect their supply to the atolls. National Bureau of Statistics says that Consumer Price Index CPI for all groups rose by plus 1.91% in October 2016 compared to the rise of plus 0.38% in September 2016. Statistics released by NBS attributed the change to the increase in the price of staple food. This statistic shows that the index for all items excluding fish rose by plus 2.22% in October 2016 compared to the rise of plus 0.07% in September 2016. Meanwhile, the Consumer Price Index for all groups CPI rose by plus 1.71% through the year to October 2016 compared to the fall of 0.21% through the year to September 2016. Prices for products like rice, sugar, chocolates, honey, jam, candies, bread, cereal increased in October, while it decreased for products like onion, eggs, potato, lemon, papaya, banana and ginger. Prices of fish products decreased by 3.8% in this period. Price for communication service also decreased by 1.23% in this period. China's broader economic growth is showing increasing signs of stabilizing, with indicators such as profits and production all on the up. China has also introduced over 2,100 policies on fiscal and tech support.
Looking back at the economic priorities China set for 2016, addressing industrial overcapacity was always a key battlefield. The first stage in solving any problem is acknowledgement. China committed to addressing overcapacity in 2016, and while the government scored an initial win, there were a few setbacks and the battle is far from over. For years, a wide range of industries in China, from steel, cement, aluminium and flat glass to coal, have been running at overcapacity. The gluts have intensive implications: dressed commodity and material prices, reduced profits of debt-ridden firms, increased non-performing loans that jeopardize financial stability. Moreover, overcapacity weighs on innovation as there are no incentives for cash-strapped firms to upgrade, making China an easy target for international trade friction. China has introduced over 2,100 policies on fiscal and tax support, the handling of non-performing assets, redundancy support, while encouraging mergers and acquisitions. Steel and coal, the two most troubled sectors, were made priorities. In February, the government announced that steel capacity should be cut by between 100 and 150 million tons by 2020, 45 million tons of which should be achieved in 2016. The coal capacity reduction was set at 500 million tons over the next few years, with 250 million tons expected for 2016. Progress came faster than expected. In late November, The State Council announced that both targets for the year had been achieved ahead of schedule. The most immediate effect of the drive was the recovery of commodity and material prices, with the producer price index measuring cost at the factory gates entering positive territory in September for the first time in nearly 5 years. Last month, the index rose 3.3%, a level not seen since late 2011. Thanks in part to this success, China's broader economic growth is showing increasing signs of stabilizing, with indicators such as profits and production all on the up. Analysts agree that the results have not come easy, but the lessons learned will be invaluable going forward. More than halfway through the year, most regions reported that they had a hit wall and progress had slowed, much to the ire of policymakers.
Rescue operation is underway off the Sochi coast after Russian military plane en route to Syria with 92 people on board crashed after takeoff. Russian news agency reports that it was unlikely there would be any survivors. Russian agencies citing unnamed security sources said the Tu-154 aircraft had crashed in the sea near the southern Russian city of Sochi after disappearing from the radar screens. The RIA news agency quoted the defense ministry as saying that the plane was carrying Russian servicemen and members of renowned military choir and dance ensemble who were being flown into an airbase in Syria. The plane was carrying 84 passengers and 8 crew members and 9 Russian reporters. Fragments of the plane have already been found at a depth of 50 to 70 meters at a distance of around 1.5 kilometers from the Russian coast. Russia's RIA news agency, citing an unidentified security source, said preliminary data indicated that the plane had crashed because of a technical malfunction or a pilot error. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel will reassess its ties with the United Nations following the adoption by the Security Council of a resolution demanding an end to Israeli settlement buildings. Here is more on this.
Was able to pass the 15-member council on Friday because the United States broke with a long-standing approach of diplomatically shielding Israel and did not wield its veto power as it had done many times before, a decision that Netanyahu called shameful. Netanyahu said he instructed the foreign ministry to complete within the month an evaluation of all their contacts with the UN, including the Israeli funding of UN institutions and the presence of UN representatives in Israel. He added that instruction has already been given to stop about $7.8 million in funding to 5 UN institutions, 5 bodies. Defying heavy pressure from longtime ally Israel and President-elect Donald Trump for Washington to use its veto, the United States abstained in the Security Council decision, which passed with 14 votes in favor. Israel for decades has pursued a policy of constructing Jewish settlements on territory captured by Israel in the 1967 war with its Arab neighbors, including the West Bank, Gaza and East Jerusalem. The executive director of Baitul Salam organization, the Israeli Information Center for Human Rights in the occupied territories, Hagai Elad, said that the resolution seeks the well-being of all people in Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories, and it is not an anti-Israeli resolution.
The Security Council's resounding resolution reaffirms the international consensus on the settlements and their consequences with regard to the human rights of Palestinians. Contrary to government spin, this resolution is not an anti-Israeli resolution. This is a resolution that is for the future of Israelis, for the future of Palestinians, rejecting the occupation and the settlements.
Most countries view Israeli settlement activity in the West Bank and East Jerusalem as illegal and an obstacle to peace. Israel disagrees, citing a biblical connection to the land.
A strong explosion in al-Sakari district in the Syrian city of Aleppo killed at least 2 people and wounded 15. The blast occurred when civilians returned to inspect their old residence, which they had previously abandoned in order to flee the rebel-controlled bombing area. The loud explosion shook the area and shots were heard following the blast. The wounded were immediately evacuated and transported to a nearby hospital. The city of Aleppo was recovered by government forces on Thursday after ousting rebel forces and evacuating civilians remaining in the besieged neighborhoods in the eastern half of the city. Following the evacuation of some 35,000 people, the Syrian army declared Aleppo safe and free of terrorists. On Friday, Syrian and Russian armies began clearing up explosives from the streets and buildings. Ever since the rebel forces in Aleppo became under siege by Syrian army in July, the population in that area has become a focal point for the international community and many news media outlets across the world.
Most Western media sources report that the population in eastern Aleppo is approximately 250,000, but the number seemed quite flexible from the very beginning, as the position said eastern Aleppo had a population of 350,000, whereas the international community maintained 270,000. The data then shrank to 200,000, the minimum estimate. Even the UN recognized the number of 275,000. With the Syrian government taking full control over Aleppo, the puzzle appeared to have another answer, that the exact population was less than anyone ever thought.
They spoke about 250,000 more, and they began shouting here and there in the U.S. Assembly and there just for humanitarian needs or something. Though after all, so it's now clear the number is much more or less than they spoke.
According to the latest statistics done by Syria Arab Red Crescent, some 300,000 Aleppo residents left the eastern part from the beginning of the offensive to December 1st. From then on to December 15th, the Syrian officials' news agency and the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation said another 30,000 residents had left eastern Aleppo. Shortly afterward, a total of 35,000 had been evacuated before December 22nd, including a number of rebels.
Residents of Ladakh, a cold desert region in India's northwestern Jammu and Kashmir province, shivers as mercury dipped to about minus 14 degrees Celsius. The temperature drop is reportedly due to fresh snowfall in the upper Himalayas.
Now at the bank of Indus River in Leh, the temperature in the night falls to minus 13.8 as per the latest temperature recorded, and the maximum temperature goes up to plus 10 degrees centigrade in the daytime. And people over here are very much used to this kind of atmosphere and conditions, but the people coming from the plains in India, they are having difficulties to cope with this weather condition.
People gathered around bonfires and sipped hot cups of tea to stave off the cold. Several parts of Kashmir are presently under the grip of Chilai Kalan, the 40 days of harsh winter that paralyzes daily life and freezes water bodies. While winters in South Asia are milder compared with Europe, they can be fatal, especially for thousands of homeless who live in shacks without any heating arrangements. The Nigerian army says that it has rescued nearly 2,000 captives from a Boko Haram stronghold in the Sambisa forest in northeast Nigeria's Borno state.
A total of 1,880 captives, most of whom are women and children, have been rescued and are currently being processed in the city of Maiduguri before being reintegrated to their own communities. Nigerian troops also arrested hundreds of Boko Haram insurgents in the forest. The hostage rescue was part of the military's renewed efforts in the so-called Operation Rescue Finale, which aims to dislodge Boko Haram from its remaining strongholds in the Sambisa forest.
So far, we have cleared nothing less than 14, sub-camps of the Boko Haram terrorists within Sambisa forest. And in so doing, just within 1 week, we were able to rescue over 1,880 persons that were held against their wish by the Boko Haram terrorists. And the statistics cut across gender, that is both female and males, as well as adults and children.
The army said some 500 insurgents were captured, while others reportedly surrendered during the raid.
Boko Haram transcend the boundaries of this country. It affects particularly some of our neighboring countries. And not just this arrest, there was one other arrest in which over 60% of the Boko Haram terrorists, suspected Boko Haram terrorists that were arrested came from a particular country within the West African sub-region.
The Nigerian military said its latest offensive against Boko Haram aims to defeat the insurgents in the next year. So far, Boko Haram has been driven away from the vast territories it once controlled. The military is now concentrating on destroying the surviving bases within the Sambisa forest as part of the final phase to ending the 7-year-long insurgency.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi announces cash rewards for people who use digital payment methods to give a boost to cashless economy.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced cash rewards for people who use digital payment methods to give a boost to cashless economy. In his monthly radio talk show, Man Ki Baat, Modi announced a cash reward of ₹1,000 each to 15,000 people who use e-banking, mobile banking and e-wallets. He said the amount will be transferred to the winners' accounts. Modi said that the aim is to strengthen mobile banking and to inculcate the habits of making e-payments. He also said that the Government of India is launching encouragement schemes for consumers as well as traders. The bumper draw will be conducted on April 14, 2017 on the birth anniversary of low-caste Dalit icon B.R. Ambedkar. The announcement of schemes comes as his move to scrap high-value bank notes, which had broad support initially, shows sign of crumbling. Modi announced a shock move to ditch 500 and 1,000 rupee notes with a combined value of $256 billion on November 8th, saying the large denomination notes fueled corruption and fraud and were even used to finance attacks by militants who target India. With the cash economy estimated to account for a fifth of India's $2 trillion gross domestic product, the decision has disrupted the daily lives of hundreds of millions of Indians. Continued shortages of new 500 and 2,000 rupees notes have caused tempers to rise as millions queue at banks and ATMs to draw money. With new 500 rupee notes worth $7.50 in short supply, it is hard for people to buy necessities because of a shortage of change. The problem of the shadow or black economy in India is pernicious. Transactions that take place outside formal channels amounts to around 20% of India's annual $2 trillion gross domestic products, according to investment firm Ambit. Shrinking it is a major objective for Modi, who is trying to get more money into tax coffers.
And looking at sports, Wolfsburg confirms that reigning French soccer champions PSG have agreed to sign Germany international Julian Draxler. It was reported by L'Equipe earlier this week that the deal for the 23-year-old midfielder was worth €36 million and would be PSG's first major signing in the winter transfer window, which opens on January 1st. Draxler's signing will help strengthen PSG for the second half of the season after a tricky start to the defense of their League One title. They are currently third, 5 points behind league leaders Nice. And on a lighter note, a festival to promote indigenous diets is underway in Ahmedabad, city of Western India's Gujarat province.
The three-day festival seeks to encourage India's urban population adopting lesser-known but nutrient-rich food, according to the organizers, Society for Research and Initiatives for Sustainable Technologies and Institutions, SRISTI. The organizers hope that the demand for such indigenous crops will help drive their cultivation by farmers. Festival coordinator Anil Gupta said, on the 14th year of this festival, they are trying to highlight the problem of untouchability and remove such concepts from society. Traditional recipes from various provinces and about 200 varieties of rice are on display, out of which more than a dozen are available for tasting. There has been a growing awareness about traditional food items like millet or pulses, long harvested by indigenous communities, as people opt for a healthier lifestyle.
Well, that's it for tonight. Stay tuned for more updates of recent current affairs stories here on Television Motives. Thank you for joining us. Wish you a pleasant evening. Good night.